Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. There's no question that we live in a divided world right now. We are divided on matters of race, politics, gun control, abortion, the economy, and more. For the past couple of years, I've been seeing things about how we need to learn to have civil discourse again between people who disagree. But in the current time, everyone is talking and no one is bothering to listen. We tend to live a my way or the highway existence. I used to have a game on my phone I would play from time to time called Contagious. You choose a place for one creature on the screen to sneeze and then watch the germs spread as the creatures moved and bounced off of each other. Well, for the past year, we've been in a pandemic, and that idea of spreading germs isn't new to us. But the idea of bouncing off each other has become pretty familiar too. While Paul was in prison, he called for something more. In the midst of his isolation in prison, he called for Christ's followers to put aside their differences and to become one. In Ephesians 4, he wrote, I, therefore, the prisoner in the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. What Paul knew is that we all need God's grace alike, and we share a common humanity, a common need, and a common blessing from the God who loves us. He echoed that sentiment in his letter to the Philippians too. In the very beginning of chapter 2, he wrote, If then there is any encouragement in Christ, any consolation from love, any sharing in the Spirit, any compassion and sympathy, make my joy complete. Be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. As alone and afraid as he must have been, he called for people to stand together, to care for one another, and to be reminded of that common humanity we share. He knew that mutual love would help see us through any difficulty. Finally, today we look at Colossians 3:14 through 15. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in the one body, and be thankful. This togetherness and love was so important to Paul, and he needed it too. He needed the spiritual connection he had with other believers to strengthen and encourage them there in the prison. Paul urges us to live together in love, not just during difficult times, but always. In fact, it may be when things are easy and we are so distracted by petty things that it is hardest to live together in love. Living together in love and unity is a mark of God's people. When there are times of trouble and difficulty, when we are in prisons and can't escape, it's all too easy to focus on ourselves and on our plight. The call of the Christian is to live for others, always. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.